So this video is for my TikTok followers, and I mean everybody else can just scroll past this. So I don't know what to say. You know, I see the way that everything is operating as far as the algorithms that are out there. And I know that for the most part, most everything that and it's not just me, by the way. I mean, this isn't a everything is happening to me speech. This I know it's happening to lots of other people. I know that. Where the algorithms don't allow certain content creators to trend or to, and they manipulate the way people are paid out and so on. This is particularly true especially true, actually, on former Bird site. And I don't really do this for the money. That's not really why I'm here. If I were here for money, I would just ask for donations. I would just, but like, you guys, for the people who've been following me for a while, you know that I don't really ask for money. It's like, I mean, hey, if you want to donate, you're welcome to do so. But that's not my style, because I'm not really here for the money. I'm not here for your money. I'm here to preserve the money I've already made, right? Because in terms of spending power, now I abandoned the dollar many years ago, the US dollar. And so on that score, we're pretty okay. But there's an educational aspect that exists for the average person that don't understand how spending power works. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that understand how spending power works, and you'll see my videos. These don't get to the other people out there who really need to know, like the very people who need to understand this kind of thing are the very people who are not ever exposed to it. Does that make sense? Right? I mean, am I making sense with that? It's like, now I realize that ignorance is bliss, and I realize there's a lot of people out there that are perfectly content to not know any of this stuff. And that's cool. I understand. Even I issue the warning to people in the very first video I ever did, like, once you understand this stuff, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it again. And it will change the way that you think about the world, which is true. It does. It changes. I mean, I've seen this in my own life, in people just, in my personal sphere of influence, where, I'll walk them through the steps, and it does change them, because they then start to see the world as being heavily manipulated and heavily stacked against you. An average person stacked heavily against you. And that's because large criminal enterprises have effectively taken over everything there is to do with what you think of as a government. Which is, of course, why if you keep governments, you're supposed to keep them small. You're supposed to keep governments very, very tiny, right? Because they will naturally attract the worst sort of people to work in these enterprises. So, trying to explain this, and it doesn't make any difference who I'm talking to, because everybody has their politics all mixed up. And you have a bunch of people like, no, we need to have more government to solve all these problems. And it's like, that's never what happens. That's just historically never what happens. You don't solve these problems with more government. You end up with just a bigger organized crime ring. That's all you end up with. And so that's where the idea of, well, we need to bring about the downfall of capitalism, whatever that means. Right? I mean, because if we start asking any follow-up questions, most of the idea falls apart. It's like you're talking about you want the same system, you just want to be in charge of it. Like, dude, that isn't a thing for me. Like, I don't Like why would we do this and meet the new boss same as the old boss? Like, why would we do that? Right? That's not an actual revolution, and I don't mean violent revolution. I just mean a revolution of the mind. Just expanding your mind to the idea of thinking this stuff through and going, well, maybe we don't need to have all this control. No, we don't. We really don't. You need to have honest weights and measures. Honest weights and measures ends a lot of problems on all sides. So, and I read quite a few of your comments, from the previous video, and I know, I know there's a lot of people that are encouraging me to keep going with all this kind of stuff. I just don't know to what end. I think that's really the problem. It's like, to what end? So, being kind of a goal-oriented kind of guy, mission-oriented, like, to what end? What exactly is my goal? Because I'm not really trying to get your money. That's not really it. I mean, I'll take the creator bonuses and all, what little bit I get. I don't really get anything. Again, former bird site is about the most egregious of this. I am absolutely hated on that site, by the owner particularly. That's why, my so-called payouts will be like $41 for the same like ratios and everything, the same analytics that someone else with fewer followers will get, like $4,100. Like there's obviously a distortion, and there's never been really a full disclosure on how everybody gets paid. Think about like, I'll tell you this story. Anybody who's ever been in sales, how this works. Especially outside sales guys, you'll know what I'm talking about if you've ever done it. They give you a territory, and then you go out there, and then they tell you, hey, you'll make X amount of money if you conquer this territory and sell a bunch of stuff, right? And so you go and do that. And then and then just imagine them saying, okay, well, now we're going to cut your territory in half, and you still have the same quotas. In other words, they're changing the deal on you. And that's a problem when you keep changing the deal on somebody. Because, like, okay, so you've made a deal, I fulfilled my end of the deal, now you want to change it because, because your business model really didn't work. That's really what it comes down to. Your business model didn't work. It requires the idea of endless growth because you probably borrowed too much money. You have endless debt. That's usually what ends up happening with most all companies. And that's why it requires all this endless growth, is because of endless debt. Well, if you didn't have any debt, then you don't really require endless growth, do you? No. I mean, that's the truth. You don't. It doesn't require endless growth if you don't have any debt. If you have no debt and no crazy taxes or anything, I mean, I've covered that on many occasions. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll do a few more or something, and we'll just kind of on a case-by-case basis or something like that. But I mean, I'm watching all of this stuff, and it seems like the more I try to explain this stuff, and particularly the money aspect of it, the worse it's getting. The more it's almost like the more ignorant people are. It's almost like they're setting out to not understand any of this stuff. It's very strange to me, as opposed to, I mean, like, I try to empower everybody. Like, dude, man, if you understand this stuff, please start explaining this to other people. Please start translating this into other languages. To the best of your ability. I realize that in certain countries you can't say certain things, but to the best of your ability, at least explain the money aspect of it, because then people know how they're being ripped off. And it's by all the giant organized crime called government and mega corporations that work with them, and the mega bankers. It's the same people. Anyway.